since we've spoken about what 5G means for Indians, let's get you to tell our viewers about what kind of 5G is getting installed and rolled out in India. You have a global footprint, and I must tell our viewers that Qualcomm has critical patents perhaps across the 4G, 5G, CDMA 2000, and perhaps even for 6G, who knows, they may not have disclosed that so far. They are the big bosses when it comes to telecom and all the critical technology that powers mobility. So for the question that I asked you, what's your sense about what it means?
Well, it basically, the way you need to think about it is you have a technology that is going to not only enable better mobile devices everywhere, globally, but a technology that is going to be part of new industry that can develop. Even though 5G is already being deployed in other markets, what I think is unique about India is that India will bring 5G to scale and will have the ability to get the technology from 5G phones at every price point for everyone, but also to enable 5G in a number of different applications. For example, we can see how 5G can be used in agriculture with 5G connected drones or smart cameras that are going to be analyzing plant per plant. We're talking about per plant agriculture. We can see how that is going to change healthcare, making healthcare more available using telemedicine and connecting healthcare to a lot of different villages. You can see how this is going to change energy, making the grid more efficient. So 5G creates a big opportunity for India because it's still on its beginning, and there's a lot of applications that are yet to be developed. As an example, for example, in India, we have been very active in ventures. We already incubated over 100 startup companies. Many of those companies are thinking about developing some of the future applications using 5G.
What do you think about India's plans for semiconductor self-reliance?
Okay, well, thank you for your kind words. Semiconductors, I think we learned through the supply chain crisis that semiconductors are important, and they're going to be an essential technology for the digital economy. That's why you see activity all over the globe with governments now very interested in how to build a resilient global semiconductor supply chain. And I think India has a role to play. I think there's an opportunity for India also to work with their partners. I believe, and I said that when we're talking before, I don't believe one country can solve this problem alone. It's a problem for the entire global industry. Semiconductors are in everything, and that will continue to grow. India has an important role to play in its scale, in its talent pool, to build semiconductor manufacturing capabilities, whether it's a directly manufacture of semiconductors or bringing the supply chain that exists around semiconductors. And I think we saw the United States approve the U.S. and Chips and Science Act. There's the European Chips Act. We see a lot of countries motivated to attract that industry, and I think that's a great opportunity.
Will all of these acts globally and India's efforts solve the semiconductor supply shortage?
I think we are getting behind the shortage. At least I can speak from Qualcomm. We're no longer see this as a problem. We made a prediction in the beginning of the year that supply and demand will normalize at the end of the calendar 2022. That's what we're seeing. It's not true for all companies, but we're mostly behind that. But I think the importance of those chip initiatives from many governments is more than solving the supply chain crisis, but it's about understanding from the crisis the importance of semiconductor, and the supply chain needs to be global, needs to be resilient, and needs to be diversified. Just natural disaster alone could create a supply chain crisis of semiconductors.
And do you think all the recent developments are ticking off those 2-3 critical points that you spoke about, diversify supply chains, global?
I completely believe that's the case. We've been very active, I think, working with governments on the development of those plans. because we're the largest fabless. We don't have a manufacturing. We rely on
I'm glad you
foundries.
said that, because that was my next question.
Yeah.
Just to explain to
Yeah.
our viewers, what do you really do in
Yeah.
semiconductor?
We're the largest fabless company, which means we outsource all of our manufacturing, and we, as a result, we become one of the largest customers of the semiconductor foundries in the world, whether they're Taiwan and Korea, in China, in the United States, and in Europe. And I feel that the importance of those initiatives is to make sure that we'll continue to see globally the capacity, the investment, and the resilience of that very important supply chain.
So if there's a good fab in India down the line, a few years down the line, would you give them some orders?
We will use it, absolutely.